Happy New Moon, everyone. On April the 1st, there's going to be an Aries New Moon. In London, it will commence at 7:24 a.m. Elsewhere, of course, you need to check. I'm going to talk about the one in London for my London students, but some of the configurations and placements will be valid for anywhere in the world. What are new moons? Of course, they are commencements, they are fresh starts, initiation, something that you may initiate in order to loose it upon the world, so to speak, upon yours and others. And this is the first new moon after the Vernal Equinox. Really, it's the kickstart of the new moon energies, the new year energies as well. And it's the strongest of all the new moons if it goes for energy. So it's the high impact energy. But at the same time, this particular new moon is really interesting because it's on Chiron. It's exactly on Chiron. And it's also conjunct Mercury. So it's a fourfold conjunction with the two luminaries, Chiron, karmic wounds and the healing energy. And at the same time, Mercury, understanding and communication. There's a war going on at the moment here in Europe. And if you want true programmed chaos, because that's what we live through, programmed chaos, this is what you do. You kickstart a new war, and all of a sudden, energy prices go skyrocketing, and food prices and food shortages will occur. And that's exactly what the powers that we want. We did not cave in with the pandemic. We are here. We are kind of healthier than ever, despite of the jabs and everything and nonsense. Not mentally. Mentally, it has done a huge and horrible thing. And the problem is that the lowest possible emotions, of course, aside personal emotions like jealousy and all sorts of that. But if we go for of general emotions, fear and envy are the worst. And that's exactly what's going to kick in, unfortunately, despite the fact that I call this particular new moon a healing new moon, because there's potential for healing. It's not just Chiron that is prominent in the space-time moment, but also Hygiea, the 10th of the asteroids, which denotes sacred spaces, personal hygiene, the will to better your surroundings and yourself. Those are very prominent. But what else is prominent and what makes this new moon a little bit tricky to comprehend is the dark moon Lilith, which is a relatively fast-moving celestial object. It travels about 3 degrees per day. And in the exact space-time moment when the new moon commences, we find Hygiea at Gemini 22-23 degrees on 4 celestial objects, transcendental objects, I think, as far as I remember, but we will take a look at the chart in a moment, all asteroids, but also 5 very prominent big stars. And the dark moon Lilith, if you want to understand, I have a series on the Liliths. You can find it both in Hungarian and in English on my YouTube channel. And the dark moon is the second turning point of the Lilith myths, denoting the occasion when Lilith not just leaves paradise for good, but also doesn't want to return there, and she accepts Yahweh's curse upon herself. So it's the acceptance of the curse, which kind of describes a feeling like, I don't care what's happening. I don't care what's going on here. I'm not doing what everyone wants me to do. So it's this defying of everyone else's wish or an authority's wish. That's particularly it. So let's take a look at the space-time moment. These are the highlights for the London chart. Actually, this is not it yet, sorry. This is it. Okay, so the highlights, so we have Taurus rising, and one highlight is, of course, the exact Sun-Moon Chiron conjunction with Mercury a little bit behind. There's also the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, which is applying. It will be exact, I think, around the 11th of April, which is the most beneficial conjunction, no matter what everyone says. Yeah, Neptune is fogginess and deception, and Jupiter enlarges everything it touches. But in karmic astrology, we say that Neptune Chiron is usually about how you can believe in your dreams, how you can actually not fulfill, just to have a dream, to conjure a dream and believe in it. And there's a triple conjunction of Mars, Saturn, and Juno. Mars is very, very strong at the moment, very fast at the moment. It will be actually overtaking Saturn in a couple of days. And this is closing, this triple conjunction is closing the karmic cage that I mentioned a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago. And I gave you the exact timeline when enriched celestial objects is actually forming the karmic cage. As you may remember, karmic cages are potential manifestations of how you can distinguish between karma and destiny. Karma is the past, destiny is the future. So those are the highlights. And of course, sorry, the North Node is also conjunct Lilith. This is a separating conjunction because the node is backwarding and Lilith is forwarding. This is the complex planetary picture at 12 and 13 degrees about that region. This is for the London chart, so you won't have two of the configurations elsewhere. One of is the cardinal T-square involving Sun, Moon, Chiron, and midheaven and IC. So the two luminaries with Chiron actually highlighting your past, your roots, and your potential future, and also your aspirations. And the trapeze involving the IC, your roots, Hygiea, hygiene and sacred spaces, Vesta, the focusing principle, and the new moon Chiron. This trapeze is not occurring elsewhere because you need the IC. Otherwise, this portion is not there. There are a couple of what do you call them? Engines, but I'm not going to enumerate them. What you do have is a harmony triangle, which I love, because again, you have the Sun, Moon, and Chiron at its apex. And there's a very nice triangle involving Vesta, Ceres. It's a bit wide for my taste, but I still love it. So I decided to put it in here, especially because the Sun and the Moon are giving energy to everything. And you can actually enlarge the orb if the Sun and the Moon are there. And Vesta Ceres is focusing on your home, your family, your homeland, whatever you consider your homeland, London, England, Europe, or the whole world. This is what you need to do. There's also a boomerang, and actually the space-time moment carries two exact boomerangs, and boomerangs are the most karmic of the planetary picture, potential planetary pictures. You know what a boomerang is. I'm sure it's a weapon. You throw it and it comes back to you, and if you're not careful enough, it hits you instead of the enemy. There at the boomerang axis, you have the Uranus retrograde Hygiea opposition. In a boomerang, you have not just an apex, which is here in Hygiea, in this particular place, Hygiea, but also an anchoring point, which is Uranus. So the whole issue is about how we can change our habits, our bad habits, how we can create with new things, new potentials, how we can create healthier environment among us, around us. And we badly need it. And not just because we are really creating this chaos around us, not we, actually the powers that we are creating, but because think about how horribly we treat ourselves, our neighbors, everyone else that are not important to us. So it's really about bloody time to try to clear, unclutter things and create a sacred and healthy space. With the help of the Sun, Moon, Chiron on the one hand, and Ceres, which is your home. So this is the boomerang portion. and also you have, I enumerated one of the fixed engines here because you will have this in anywhere you have you're observing the new moon. Vesta, Hygiea, Ceres, exactly carrying the same thing. Vesta is the focusing principle, Ceres is your home and your mothering and nurturing and your family, and Hygiea is putting things in order. And there's this tiny angel wing configuration, the new moon Chiron, Ceres sextile at its apex, Uranus change. So the key is change. If we look at the transcendental celestial objects, the new moon itself has Aten, the sun disk, illumination, and Fantasia, fantasy, fantasy. Try to create things using your fantasy, and also try to understand things using fantasy. Please don't accept and don't believe what mainstream media wants to show you. It's a very interesting thing. Zelensky, the Ukrainian hero, wanted to make a speech in the Dutch parliament, and one of the parties, I translated it for you in English so you can actually check it out. Forum for Democracy, that's the name of the party, of the Dutch party. They said that they are not going to listen to it because it gives Zelensky the hero semi-deity status, and he is not a good guy. And I applaud their decision, because don't mix the suffering Ukrainians, the people who are actually suffering the war, with the totally dishonest leaders of Ukraine. Just research it before you believe anything else. And I know it firsthand because I have relatives and friends in the western portion of Ukraine, which used to be Hungarian, used to be Hungary. And these are Hungarian people who are not allowed to use their language, who they are given all sorts of terrible things. I'm not going to enumerate it here because this is not the topic. Anyhow, Chiron is on Berenike, which is self-sacrifice, and Alderamin, the alpha star of Kephos, the king in the myths, depicted in the sky, Cassiopeia, Andromeda, Kephos, and the set that tries to take away Cassiopeia. Sorry, Andromeda. Cassiopeia is the wicked queen whose beauty is more important than her daughter. And then, of course, Perseus, the hero who helps her escape. On Uranus, you have 4 celestial objects: Antigone, Hecate, Geisha, and Sappho. Out of which I think they are all self-explanatory. Antigone is the heroine who chooses divine rules over man-made, king-made rules. So it's a hubris asteroid, but it's the good one. Hecate is the dark moon goddess. Geisha is what you know, the Japanese wise ladies of the tea house. And Sappho is an interesting asteroid because it has a very obscure myth in which Sappho falls in love with a beautiful boy who was given beauty by the goddess of beauty and love, Aphrodite, and she falls in love with this boy, but the boy is not returning the feeling, and she's so heartbroken that she jumps off a cliff and kills herself. And Sappho is prominent whenever you see a catastrophe or some sort of accident with big casualties. Most of the people have this prominent in their chart. And to me, it denotes, in karmic astrology at least, it carries a meaning that I don't want to commit suicide, but I'm willing to take part in any kind of event where I will die with numerous others. So we carry it over, but I still don't commit the crime or the sin of suicide. Anyhow, so that's on Uranus. Okay, on Ceres, the nurturing principle, you have Ashurbanipal, Persephone, and Galahad. Ashurbanipal was a king in Mesopotamia. Persephone is Hades' bride, who from a virgin becomes the queen of the underworld. And Galahad, of course, is a shining knight. On Hygiea, you have Shiva with W, and she is the Slavonic love goddess. And on Vesta, you have Gilgamesh. So these are the transcendental objects. And you have also another complex planetary picture at 23, 25 degrees, involving the fixed karmic cage I explained to you many times already. And at the apex at the moment, there's Juno, so that's the exact Venus moved out of it already. And you also have a boomerang, and a second boomerang, here it is. At the apex, you have the south node, knowledge, past knowledge. At the anchor point, you have the Lilith north node conjunction, revolt against injustice. This is your destiny at the moment. And you have Aries in Aries, drastically altered outward circumstances. Look around, that's exactly what's happening. And Black Moon Lilith, I told you that, Dark Moon Lilith, I told you that it's very prominent in this chart. And you have a couple of other interesting configurations. You can actually look at it. The two engines that I'm enumerating here are forming also a trapeze. So I have two trapezes in this chart for the London chart. Here, this trapeze has a quincunx at its base, south node, dark moon. And the two squares are what carries you to the top of the stage. The stage is very narrow. The triple conjunction of Saturn, Juno, and Venus on the one hand, and Jupiter, Neptune on the other. But the insides are two trines. So the inside energy pattern of this trapeze are two trines, are made of two trines. So there's blessing and harmony inside to have, if you are willing to search for it. And the transcendental celestial object just here. I'm going to talk about the dark moon first, because that is the most interesting portion of it. And it's going to move away soon. By the afternoon, this will be separating. And here you have Apollo, another sun god, Gorgo, the Medusa energy. Bienor is a centaur, a negative, creative, shining. It's actually the usurper, someone who wants to shine at all costs, who wants to get on the stage and show off, really, practically. But what's really interesting that in this degree you have 5 bright stars: Capella, Alpha, Auriga, Vacht, the dove, the celestial dove, Mintaka, which is one of the belt stars of Orion, Elnath, which is the beta star of Aries, and Bellatrix, which is the western shoulder of the celestial hunter Orion. So these are the dark moon. So the dark moon is very, very prominent. On Venus, you have Zoser and Nemesis. Zoser is a pharaoh, and Nemesis is the punisher of hubris. On Saturn, you have Cleopatra, a queen. On Jupiter, you have Memphis, Helena, Pan, and Urania. So you have an Egyptian asteroid, Helena, which is Helen the Fair, who actually triggered the Trojan War. Pan, which means universal, but also panic comes from this word, so utter fear. Urania, which is the one of the muses of astronomy. But of course, in Greek times, there was no separate astronomy and astrology. So it's the muse for both. And Okyro, which is a centaur, according to the myths, Okyro is the daughter of Chiron and Chariclo, and she inherits the super traits of both parents. So she's an oracle, a seer and an oracle. The problem is that she blurts out things that she's not supposed to. So the fates are constantly punishing her, and she gets so upset with it that she turns herself into a horse. So she loses her ability to speak and loses her humanity and goes back to this animal stage. And it usually denotes the notion or the karmic wound that I know a lot, but I can't express myself because I'm going to be punished for it. It's better not show what I am. And on Neptune, you have Markab, again, a prominent star of Pegasus. So you have here the story, in this new moon, the story of Andromeda, Cassiopeia, Paphos, and Perseus are very strong. On Aries, you have Memoria. Think memory, of course. Think back of the destruction that war and famine can do, which we forgot for 80 years. We didn't really have it here in Europe. On the North Node, you have Hector, another Trojan war hero. And on asteroid Lilith, you have Amor and Horus, Amor love, and Horus, the first of the pharaoh, who actually is able to conquer darkness, Seth, and he becomes light. And so he expresses the energy of light. So this is the pattern for this particular new moon. Happy new moon for everyone. Thank you for listening to me, and use the energy pattern wisely. Bye-bye.